the backbone of America.
Welcome back to the Backbone of America, where we discuss the business. Today we're going to be discussing the business of combat sports promotions. We've got Dada here. Dada, thanks for coming out, man. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
I appreciate it. This interview, I do a lot of interviews, but this one in particular means a lot to me because of growing up, I used to watch a lot of these fights, especially the street fights that started out down south in Parine. I remember Kimbo Slice being, man, the guy's like a legend down here,
100%.
And I told you I have a little bit of background in trying to start this business when I was young. I didn't have what it took. You did. You made it happen, and I'm excited about getting started on the interview.
100%.
So you're a retired mixed martial artist. Now you're a combat sports promoter. I loved your documentary, by the way. Last night I sat down, Dogfight. You said you're coming out with a new one, correct?
100%. It's Dogfight Round 2. And this second phase of evolution, it's going to cover so much. It's going to cover, the steps that were taken after one to start the bare-knuckle phenomenon of a promotion called BKB, which is worldwide. And it's just a testament, that dreams are possible, if you put in the work and you have the faith. And a lot of individuals, they never seen this thing coming, Like when you talk about something that was traditional, this was not it. This was not the norm. So what I did was I redefined the definition of extreme reality, right? So a lot of individuals, they couldn't resonate with what I was doing in the backyard. Trust me, man, when people was like, oh, this is horrible. You're taking boxing and MMA back, a decade, but this is how they both started. Before the gloves were ever on, they were on. Yeah. UFC, it started barbaric. I mean, you could be 300 pounds and fight someone, 160 pounds, and then we had to fight an uphill battle, but it was worth it because now, so many individuals have been inspired by the journey of what is possible. We was doing this thing before it was even popular, or let alone it became what it is today. And it's like a relay. It's like a marathon race. Kimbo Slice ran first leg, then the baton got passed to me. And that's when you seen the Renee Levels and all these other individuals that, grew into mega stars, Bruce Caceres, Bruce Leroy, coming from the backyard. We've sent more guys pro from the backyard, than any other dojo or any other, entity out there that was, preparing these guys for that. We had corporate America to trade in, their suits and ties for baseball hats and tennis shoes and book flights to come to sunny South Florida because they heard that the next great thing may be coming out of a backyard.
Yeah, it's crazy. And not only that, but you started from the bottom. What option did you have? You got individuals that have lots of capital and they can make things happen and be more formal and get the licensing. And then you got everyone else, that's basically saying, if I don't do this as good as I know how to do it, it's never going to get off the ground, And that's how every entrepreneurship story that succeeded well has come. It's come from straight from the bottom, I like that. All right, so first question, define your line of business.
Wow. My line of business is described as, professional pugilism at its best, right? When you talk about combat sports, we are the blueprint, and it changes lives because it's more than just fighting. You know what I'm saying? It's the mind frame that you have to go into this thing with, right? To the point that it's like, the business, it's been around. This stuff been around since the Roman Colosseum days.
Gladiators. Exactly.
Back when, the kings and queens used to have the subjects or the gladiators fight, sometimes to the death, to the amusement, of the citizens, right? Yeah. So it's like we didn't come up with anything because it was already there, but we didn't invent it, but we played an innovative role to it, right? We took it, and we altered its appearance to make it more acceptable inside the 21st century. And this is why, I dominated for so long, because they've never seen something to this magnitude, you know what I'm saying, in the 21st century. It was always hush, hush, secret society, mum's the word, invite, day of. I offered it to the public. There was nothing in the code book, nothing in the statutes that said it couldn't be done, because nobody in the history, has ever presented it so boldly, as I. And keep this in mind, when you talk about everybody that was doing it underground, when I came out, I didn't invent it, but I played the innovative role to it. I educated the people about the culture, of the sport. I gained more momentum, and I shot to heights unimaginable than anybody the past few hundred years, as long as pugilism have been going on. We talking about taking it back to the days where the guys used to fight like this, before things started getting organized. So just being an ambassador, they say, well, Dada, you're this, and I'm an ambassador to the culture. I'm a spokesman for the sport. That's why I'm so grounded, and I go anywhere in the world. You know what I'm saying? Because the only difference between me and anybody else is our occupation,
Agreed. So you're in the entertainment business. Now, how do you compete against companies, for example, like the UFC or Bellator? I mean, you have a certain niche. How big is that niche growing?
Oh, man. Good question. You're good.
Or how fast is it growing?
It's going at the speed of life because of the team. Aside from having a great product, right? We're only as good as the individuals that we're around, right? So I partnered up. Before I mention that, I will say this: creative minds never take a day off. So in the backyard, right, I got nominated for 2 Emmys on daytime TV, NBC. The president of NBC was in my backyard, right? We, Rolling Stones, they did a piece on us. ESPN magazine, right? Sold more copies of that magazine, that month than any other month that year. Movie Spectacular had Lindsey Vonn, the skier, on the front copy, looked like Sharon Stone, right? When you talk about Vice, when you talk about, Maxim, Miami Herald, Sun Sentinel, Washington Post, Netflix, and a whole host of others, everybody gravitated, towards what we were doing, to the point that I would get calls. And it's like, hey, this is XYZ, from ESPN. E60, shout out to them, damaged the ratings, highest ratings ever in their history. And here's the important part about it, right? All of these promotions are, reaching out to me, and we know that whatever we collaborate on, the end result is going to be a fight, but it's how we get there. It differentiates from any other promotion that we've worked with, right? So it goes back to creative minds never take a day off. Boxers, since the dawn of time, have always fought in what? The square circle, the ring. MMA fighters in what? The octagon, right? So when you look at shapes, you have squares, you have circles, you have, triangles, you have all these shapes, right? Then you go over, now you got the nanogon, the heptagon, the octagon, the pentagon. There's not a trigon. There's a triangle, but it's not a trigon. Where, in the words of Benny Ricardo, where you better try or you're gone. And I came up with the mighty Trigon. We did it in the backyard, on National Geographics. Shocked the world.
Yeah. What's the difference between the triangle and the trigon?
Oh, just the pronunciation and the category. So you have the triangle over here, but over here with the nanogons, the heptagons, the pentagons, and all these other things, you don't have a trigon.
Right.
And it's the most competitive.
Well, what I read was, correct me if I'm wrong, but you wanted to make it more close contact, less running away, more intense.
Yes.
I mean, it's already an intense sport. I mean, I feel like there's something different about going to a bare-knuckle fight because it's more engaging, it's more raw, it's unfiltered. It reminds me of YouTube. You go on YouTube, you're not going to find, it's already been filtered. They've taken out all the stuff that's a little more taboo,
Yeah.
But when you're doing a Trigon and you have a small ring, more contact. Yeah, it's definitely a lot more more action.
It's it's the fourth man in the ring, because you have. If you're not on point, you will get exposed on a Friday or Saturday nights under the bright lights, because it tests not only your overall fight IQ. You don't have the luxuries that you get inside of a boxing ring. You don't have that space like that, you know, to the point that it's like footwork, technique, elusiveness, everything has to be on display. We start off closer than any other combat sports. We start off the fight where we're literally like this. So I'm looking you right in your eyes. Ready? Ready? Let's go. I think you're gonna do two things. You're gonna engage, you're gonna pivot back, you know, or you're gonna, you know, pivot out. You're gonna go back or you're gonna pivot out. Now, I see what you don't see and you see what I don't see. But I also know where I wanna put you. You know, because you have point, point, point. I get you in one of those angles. It's deeper than the corner of a boxing ring. Unlike a UFC or any of these other, places of combat that, you know, you could just roll around. You can't run. You got to fight. You can't bring your bicycle inside there. And just like GE, we bring good things to life. You know, I partnered up, you know, with my brother from another mother, Mike Vasquez, you know, and I got hit with a cease and desist. That's what stopped me in the backyard.
This was what, 2014? 14, right.
Yeah, you know, I was making too much noise. Guys is going pro. Word of mouth travels faster than mail, right? So now it's like that the word is getting out. Everybody's talking. We got celebrities, Fat Joe, Bubba Sparks performing at the dang on backyard. You know, and then I said to myself, because in 2010, you know, I got connected with Usain Bolt. He wanted to come out, but I'm like, yo, this dude is a Jamaican national treasure, and we're in the hood, so it is a little bit, it is a little sketchy, you know. But they say strength is in numbers, you know what I'm saying? But the respect that we have, you know. Man, listen, and everybody understood that this is not just, you know, for entertainment. This is creating outlets, you know what I'm saying, for your brother, for your cousin, for your niece, for whoever, because we got corporate America to come out. We got some of the biggest event promoters, you know, to come out. You know, they're seeing this talent for what it is, you know, and they say, hey, Dada, you know, this is everything negative, right? But like I said, hey, look, you know what I'm saying? These guys are back here, you know, inside the backyard, performing, competing, right? For a better opportunity at life, right? To say, hey, I earned this, you know? And hopefully I could get seen even in defeat. Somebody could see something in me that's willing, you know what I'm saying, to bet on me, to bank on me. Because you take this away from them, what else do they have? You don't want them waiting in your backyard to tie you up and rob you when you come home from a hard day's worth of work. So at least if they're focused on this, then they're not over there plotting on that.
Yeah. Dude, you're hell of a salesman. I gotta tell you, I'm excited. I actually want to go to one of your events now. Let's talk about the business.
Yes.
How much does it cost you to host a premium event?
That depends. That depends on, we have small room events, then we have big events.
Well, let's
big events.
Tell me, let's talk about a premium event, something that you say this is not on the small end. This is.
Oh, you're definitely going to be into the millions. Definitely going to be into the millions, 100%. Because see, not only do, and let's say you don't have a network backing you and it's all on you.
And this is for one event.
This is for one event. Because you also got to keep one thing in mind, you know, with our fighter roster, we're responsible, you know, for more than 100 employees. Everybody that make this thing go, from the back end on the production team, you know, down to the commentators, right? So when you look at, we got stars, you know, Mike Goldberg, who was with, you know, the UFC for many years, Joe Rogan's partner for over 19 years. He's our lead commentator. Right? So not only are we paying for the talent, we're paying for the experience, we're paying for the knowledge that makes the company even more credible, right? Yeah. Then we have two-time boxing world champion Paulie Malignaggi, right? He's over here with us. Then we got, you know, Super Bowl, you know, champion Benny Ricardo, you know, the voice of CBS. He's over here. Then we have Claudia Trejos, the first Hispanic female commentator, you know, she's over here. And we have a host of other others. Like, we have a star-studded roster of credible commentators, you know. We have Nelson Swagger, the general, who produced the first WWE, WrestleMania with Vince McMahon. So we have a seasoned team, of individuals. And then you have to say, what event? Because we have so many promotions underneath. So we're not a bare-knuckle promotion, we're an entertainment promotion. So we have the 0 to 60, which is the entry level, it's an entry level to the world of combat sports. It's an evaluation as a developmental platform.
But it's a different league, or?
Well, it's not a league. You know what I'm saying? It's not a league. It's a filtration system to go to Trigon Combat, which is the league, which is our amateur division, because you have to have, 5 fights to go pro. So we're holding your hand from here to here to here. So you're never alone. Nobody else is doing that. So Trigon Combat, it's its own entity with its own CEO, its own president, its own everything. It's ran just like how we run, the big league, which is BKB, its own president, its own CEO, and the list goes on and on and on. So underneath, the mega promotion, we're adding so many others. Like, we have a couple other, sporting ventures that is going to come out. So it's an umbrella, and that's why we're the biggest. We got the biggest roster. So again, the pricing, it goes by the stars that you have competing. We're building our own stars from the ground up. Yeah. But we also have guys, that have fought on the highest levels that are out there. So you may have a fight budget that could range from, just a fight budget, that could range from, 150,000, 200,000 alone to almost, $1 million. That's a fight budget.
Yeah, you told me there's an event coming up now in Miami, a small one, about 5,000 seats.
Yes.
But then you also have the Hard Rock.
Listen,
what's the difference? Give me an idea.
The difference, the Hard Rock could sit roughly about 10. It's a bigger venue, Outside of that, you're going to the American Airlines Arena.
Right, but let's say the Hard Rock, for example. To me, anybody that's on the Hard Rock is a premium event. This isn't the James L. Knight or anything like that in Miami Beach. What's something like that cost to book, and what are the expenses that are just like all in, whether the fight happens or not? This is what you're going to pay.
Well, I will say this: we did the first bare-knuckle event ever at the Hard Rock. This was right at the beginning of COVID, right?
Prior or
before, we did the event, and that was the last event they did.
Oh wow, okay.
Then COVID hit. So the logistics of it, just giving you, an estimated, round of about, because we have the teams that go out, and deal with the that aspect of it. But you have ways. You may pay, $40,000, $50,000, because it is a premium spot, just to get that venue for that night, so it's all about negotiations.
Right.
You could probably go in on a negotiation, with the individuals from the Hard Rock to see if that's something that they want to partner up. So the bottom end, it's determined upon, what is your overall, vision that you want to see happen. Is this a one and done? Or do you want to do a partnership with them? So I want to do this at least 5-6 times this year. We get the door, you get the bar, just that.
So it's a negotiation with them. As far as it's not just a fixed fee. It has to do with.
It could be.
I see.
But the smart thing to do.
How do you negotiate? What are the terms that you like?
Oh, the terms that I would like is to go in on a deal.
No, I know. But for example, do you prefer to pay a fixed fee, or do you say, I'd rather not pay a fixed fee? I'd rather pay on the seats. I'd rather say, you guys take the bar money,
yes.
And then or you split.
If it's a smaller venue, right?
You're doing the Hard Rock. I can't imagine it's small.
No, but I'm just saying, if it's a smaller venue, then just pay the fee, to get it out of the way. But if it's a bigger venue, of course you want to split as much as you can. Because it makes sense, because now they see the benefit of it, because once thousands of individuals leave the fight, when you walk out that door, it's gambling, it's everything. You're right there, So if we say we're going to do an event and we're going to bring out X amount of thousands of people. Now that piqued their interest because that's more slot machines getting played.
Right.
That's more, gambling. That's more everything. Yeah, So
especially the Hard Rock, which has gambling. But maybe the Miami Airline, or not the Miami, what is it now? The Kaseya Center?
Yeah, the Kaseya Center. And our numbers is growing. It's growing by the day, because again, we're real, we're raw, we're authentic. No smoke and mirrors, no gimmicks.
Yeah.
When you look at everything else, it's been plagued with politics, right? In most sports. Boxing is political. The best don't fight the best now.
Yeah.
Back in the days.
It's true. There's a lot of marketing to it. There's, who could be the most exciting, that's another story. That's another.
We have 50-50 cards. When you look at our cards, that's why Vegas, the sporting books, everybody is in with us. Everybody wants to be in with us because these are credible athletes. They're going to go out there. And when you look at the rosters, like, yo, who do you got? You like, I don't know. Your money is better safe in your pocket because the fights are just that balanced, to the point that the real winners are neither one of the guys that's left holding their hand being raised. It's you, the individuals that get a chance to see that type of stuff. That's why we're number one.
Interesting. Let's see here. So we got, what about TV rights and royalties? You guys get any of that or no? Yeah,
well, right now we have, various networks that we're dealing with, and we're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, So
you film this, right? I mean, you're doing the, if you're doing the Hard Rock, I imagine it's filmed.
Well, right now, we're networking with Vice TV.
Okay.
Right. We have Fuse TV. We have BN Sports, and I believe we have a few others, even in the UK, So our events is shown around the world, and even bigger, promotions now, networks are competing to carry our product because it's unlike anything else. It's a fresh breath of air to combat sports. Everything is different. It's not traditional.
Right.
The Trigon is a one of one. It's a star in itself. And we have the highest rate in combat sports.
So you haven't given exclusive rights to any particular media channel?
No. We signed short-term deals.
You got it.
Because you don't want to lock in because we know what we have. And again, like I just, spoke about, the commentators, we have seasoned individuals who are extremely smart. We got Dave, we have Greg Bloom, who's the CEO, of BKB. He's an entertainment attorney. He's been inside the sports world forever. He actually match-made my second MMA fight. And I said, we're putting like-minded individuals who are passionate, who are, knowledgeable about the business in positions, and of course, they have the relationships. Of course, they have the experience. Mike Vasquez, my partner, when they hit me with the cease and desist, July 2nd, of 2014, right? I was doing an event on the 5th, right, which was that Saturday. Did
you go through with it?
Well, I told them that I was, just to call their bluff. And I'm glad I didn't, because I probably wouldn't be sitting here with you right now.
Yeah.
And I sat down, I, got hooked up with Mike Vasquez, and he's, a brilliant dude. He started NASCAR Mexico, which is a diversion program, and his accolades is crazy. So we formulated this because I was raw. I was rough around the edges. He helped package this thing, he trademarked everything, and we put it in position, that, we could have moved forward. I had Red Bull, I had all amongst them inside the backyard, but they would only give me their product because they couldn't get behind me because of
they don't want to sponsor because of the.
So now we already had those relationships. I couldn't leverage off of those. So now we're doing
today even worse. I mean, it'd be like sponsoring a dogfight.
Yes.
I mean, in those days at least, that was my next topic. As a businessman, what I'm thinking, follow the money. Where's the money? Is it in the tickets you're selling? Is it in the TV rights? Is it in the sponsorships? Are you selling liquor and food? You know, like where's the money? That's what I like to talk about.
The money is in all of those that you just said. So when you talk about having, you know, the TV deal, you know, depending on how you're structuring it, you know, you're going to see more, but at a later time. So I give you an example. You know, when I fought Kimbo Slice, right? The ratings, you know, you're going to get that money maybe a month or so later. That's why the promoters, they can afford to pay, you know, the fighters up front, because the real money is going to be on the back end. We'll wait for that.
They want you to take a fee and forget about the long-term potential.
Well, here's the
Again,
thing.
if it does well, you know, obviously if the fight doesn't do well,
The promoters take the loss.
Right.
Like we've taken many losses. So we spend $1 million, if we spend $1 million on an event and we make back, you know, 200,000, we still took that 800,000 hit.
Yeah.
You know, then we gotta, you know, we gotta keep it going, and eventually it'll connect. Like what people don't realize is we just posted something yesterday, you know, and I was in the backyard with Mike Vasquez, the president of BKB, you know, and that was over 10 years ago, you know? And it just shows the level of commitment. We had those guys sitting down and we told them what we were gonna do, and we held true to it. We didn't give up on them.
Talking about payments for fighters, how much did you remember how much you got paid to fight Kimbo Slice?
Good question. I structured the deal. So I could have got paid as little as 50,000 or as much as a few $100,000. It was about
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
At that time, you know, and Kimbo was kind of like you were kind of like the guy that was challenging him, you know.
Yeah, and here's the thing, you know, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate.
Right, and you may, a lot of people like to do it to make a name for themselves, you know. That's the starting point.
Here's the thing, I already had a name. Like the majority of the world in combat knew who Dada was, largely because of what we were doing in the backyard. And I wasn't even fighting, I was promoting. But again, it goes back to the ESPNs, the National Geographics and stuff like that.
I meant like on the mainstream level, like the Bellator. I don't know if MMA was UFC around at the time? Or?
Yes.
But they were very similar to Bellator, right? In size.
Yeah, but UFC was here. Bellator is like here, like just underneath.
In those days. Today,
Bellator got, you know, bought out by PFL, so now they merge, and you have so many top tier mega promotions. But UFC is still here.
Yeah, I understood that UFC kind of took a huge market share of. That's what, again, I'm not in the business, you know, you would be the one to know about that.
Here's the thing, so with somebody like myself, because I've already had knowledge of being in the promotional business in the backyard, you know, where I learned the game, I learned the business when the cost was low. You know, I didn't have no overhead because I was outside.
Yeah.
You know, but I dealt with the who's of who's, right? So I understood the art form of negotiation, where, you know, no, I tell you what, I'll take this, right? And this may be, give or take, you know, 150,000. Just give you an example. I'll take 150,000, right? But, you know, I want a percentage of this, I want a percentage of that, and it seems small. But where I come in at, being a master promoter, hey, so for every 1 million people that tune in, right, I get $100,000, right? Now, that's my strength, that's my wheelhouse. I know how to self-market and promote. I went crazy. And we peaked out at like 3-point-something million, held steady at 2.5. Because I knew what I could have do. They didn't have to know how passionate I am. If I'm saying, hey, let's do this like this, and I put together something, and you like, yo, this is good for business. Hey, if it doesn't happen, then we don't have to, it's going to happen.
If you do it that way, you got someone pushing the block.
Come on, man. Yeah. Come on, man. Of course.
Let me ask you, what was more fun to put on a fight today, or one of those street fights back in the day in someone's backyard?
Well, it happened all in my grandmother's backyard. I would say the backyard was more raw and gritty because you never knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like today it's more about permits and negotiations. In those days, it was kind of like, listen, we're just gonna have a good time.
Yes.
We're gonna promote this place, and
Listen,
you don't have so many expenses, so a lot of it is just profit. You know?
doctors and lawyers have brought their kids, out to these events. It's like, hey, when you're 16 years old, man, you get excited when your parents say, we're going to get you your first car. He was like, this type of stuff puts you in a position to relive that excitement all over again, where you have all races coming together for the same cause. When you see people, that you've seen on TV and you know what this dude do. You know what she does. All of you guys are there. You're mingling, you're networking, for those who know the business, they understood the importance of being back there, and it worked. That's why a lot of the guys could go pro. That's why, I have a serious, my phone is really strong. And inside this business today, you have to have a strong phone. How do you get a strong phone? By building relationships. So when you look at the celebrities, there's not too many that's out there that I don't deal with, that I don't communicate with, right? So, and it's like, being intentional, and reaching out to people, when you have something structured, not just for any little thing, right? And also understanding that presentation and delivery is key with everything that you do. So in the backyard, the backyard would never get duplicated ever, but we relive through those memories, right? We have a lot of content that the world has never seen yet. And I have stacks of DVDs and VHS cassettes. This is how far we go back. That even though the quality may not hold up as good today, putting it on TV, but it is a blast from the past for social media, and for content, which reminds me.
Yeah, you relive the moment.
Yeah, which reminds me, that no one has done what we've done to the likes that we've done it to, and no one will ever, because the reason why they couldn't stop me in the backyard is because, I was ahead of my time, right? To the point that, I'm doing it, but I didn't even know, how massive this thing. I knew at the moment, because I said this can be something, if we format it the right way. Where it's gonna go, I don't know, but I know I'm not gonna stop, right? So it's like the law, the boxing commission, they couldn't come at me until they put something in law. Again, nobody before me has ever done what I did, so it was nothing. It was never nothing in statute.
You had to make a new law there.
So it took them years, and I knew it was coming, didn't know when. So I was in the gas, and we done more than 22, 23 events, 7, 8 fights, sometimes 10 fights per event,
Today, how many fights are you putting on a year?
Oh, on a mega scale, on the pro circuit, from 15 to 20.
A year?
A year.
Okay. How do you select the locations?
We're not legal everywhere. So bare-knuckle is not
That's
legal.
one way to decide where you're not going to go. I guess if it's not legal, you're not going there.
But because, it's a noble sport. Boxing is a sweet science. Bare-knuckle is a gentleman's sport, right?
Wait, what do you mean by that?
A gentleman's sport, like back in the days, those were Irish gentlemen, back in the days, right? Boxing is more or less of a science, it's more technical. It's not that exciting unless you got a Mike Tyson inside there. This is more, brawling, slugging. It's more aggressive, A lot of individuals, they may say, hey, those guys don't got, real technique.
I understood you meant more of, there's more respect among the fighters.
Well, it is because they may not want to shake hands during the build up, but after the fight, that tradition carried on from the backyard. You know, they all hug each other.
Yeah,
you know,
it's all marketing, right? That they don't like each other. Like
no,
this is
sometimes it's really real, you know. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, through conversation, it's like it's just a fight. You never do this guy prior to this,
right.
and then
Yeah,
you hear their philosophy of, hey, look, so the reason why I conduct myself as such is because he signed the name on the contract. So at that point, you know what I'm saying, my mentality shifted.
Yeah.
After it's over, then I'll shake his hand.
So we talked 15 to 20 events a year. If you had more capital, could you host more events? Or what's stopping you from doing 25, 30?
Well, what's stopping us from doing 25, 30? Believe it or not, you know, it goes back to the venues, because you want certain cities, major cities, you know, you want to introduce this to, right? And then you say the commission. You know what I'm saying? You have other events that's going on. And MMA, you know, the boxing commission governs boxing, MMA, bare-knuckle, kickboxing, etc.
So, but if you guys are, if you're licensed here in Florida, and you have the Hard Rock, I mean, could you do an event or two a year?
Yeah, we do.
All right, so you're locked in Miami for 2 events a year.
But here's
Then you
the
go to another city.
Yeah, here's the kicker, right? So there's other events, amateur events, kickboxing events, boxing events, bare-knuckle events, MMA events. So the commission, that's why they have dates that you guys can only do it this date because we're booked up from this date. So it's not like we could say, hey, we're gonna do this event at some. You got to get greenlit by the commission.
Oh, so it's not even the Hard Rock that tells you we're available on that date. It's the commission that tells you.
It's more. The logistics of it. The Hard Rock has to have the availability. That means that DL Hughley is not doing a comedy event there.
Of course.
You know, Led Zeppelin is not doing a concert there. So it's always something.
If they're vacant on that day,
yes,
you need more than just their approval. You need to go back to the commission and say, we want to do this on this day. They're available. Do you approve it? Is that what you're saying?
That's how it has to go.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, that's how it has to go.
And why is that? What's the...
Well, with the commission makes sure that the is governed accordingly, right? Because with the commission, you know, you have they're the sanctioning body in a sense. So the timekeepers, you know, the judges, you know, the commissioner, you know, all these individuals has to be out there, you know, and their jobs is essential, you know.
Yeah, but you hire those guys. They don't hire them, do they?
No, well, they're a part of the state.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So they have to be at all of these
I
programs.
wasn't aware.
Yeah,
I thought they just told you got to have 35 cops there.
Nah, that's different.
And then you hire the police officers.
See, that's different because you got to pay the commission for the commission to come out, right? You got to pay the venue, right? You got to pay the staff. You got to pay the fighters. You got to pay the security.
Are they easy to work with?
Once you build a credible reputation, you know, you have a good product, right? You have a smooth operation, you know, and you're building relationships, you know what I'm saying, with them. Now, if you run a crappy show where they have to cite you on this and cite you on that, you're not going to be around. You know what I'm saying? So that's like the compliance, you know. Certain things like the ring, you know, they're getting in the ring. Hey, this bottom rope is a little loose. They're making sure that the environment is safe.
Yeah, I agree. Understood. Now, outside of this, for example, you mentioned an event could be between 250,000 and 2 million. Are you guys spending the capital out of your organization directly, or do you have a sponsor or an investor that sponsors a certain event?
Initially, because we were fresh on the scene, right? It came all out of all our pockets, right? Well, out of my partner's pocket.
Okay.
As we've grown, and individuals see the value and the benefit, now you have everybody wanting to be on board. So now it's like, now we have the networks and so forth like that. So if we put a card together, this card, the venues is selected by the card, right? So we have a card full of superstars that the world know, right? You're paying out a pretty penny to get those guys, right? Number one. So how do you recoup?
Give me 2 names, for example. You'd say if these 2 guys got together, this would be a premium fight.
2 guys, okay. Now this is coming from anywhere. So we have guys
give
in
me
the
two
London.
guys.
I would say, let's go with Yuli Munster,
Okay.
right? We have other fighters, female fighters, Red Queen, Jamie Driver.
Let's assume you put two of these premium guys, two of these well-known guys that are top-notch. And you say to me, Bruno, I want to put up a premium event here at the Hard Rock. It's going to cost $1 million. And I'd say, all right, I have the money. What's the risk reward? How do you structure? I mean, how do you do it? I mean, what are you offering me? Are you offering me a 30% of the profits? Are you? I mean, how do you work this? Or do you say we don't need the investors? We have the money. We'd rather put it up ourselves. You know.
So here's the thing, right? That would go back in the beginning, right? But probably even not inside the beginning because, you know what I'm saying, we were just getting started. So on a deal like that, you know what I'm saying, we sit down and we say, okay, well, how would we structure this? We may not do $1 million event, you know what I'm saying, at the Hard Rock. We would take the $1 million and you say, okay, well, this is the order of term of how, you know what I'm saying, the payback, the breakdown goes, right? So we'll structure it. Instead of doing one show, right, we would do, you know, a few small shows. When I say small, you know what I'm saying, we're talking like, you know, 5,000, 6,000 seats. But, you know what I'm saying, we would have the stars on those and we would do it various cities, various states. So the time frame would add up because the markets are different. So you can get $1 million now with sponsorships.
Is it because of the risks that you want to diversify among 5 events rather than one?
Yeah, because again, you know, when we're talking about the Hard Rock, I wouldn't put $1 million inside the Hard Rock. You know what I'm saying? As far as like on an investment, maybe now because we're here now, right? But in the beginning, like we went to the Hard Rock first in 2021, right? So that was the first event of its kind. And COVID was already out, you know, but everything was shutting down. It hadn't shut down, you know? So on something like that, of course, you know what I'm saying, we wouldn't. But now that we have, you know, we have the structure, you know, we have the largest roster, it will be, where will we do it at? It may not even take place in the United States. It may take place in London at the O2 Arena because the fans are different. The money is different. Everything is different. So we're doing shows in Dubai, we're doing shows in London, we're doing shows all over the world in other countries, you know? So you have something to compare to, you know what I'm saying? And when you look at, you know, the US market, you get known in the US, you get rich overseas. You know, that's why all of your celebrities, your entertainers, they get their name here, they go over there.
And where do they make the money there? I mean, why isn't the money here?
The money is not here, you know what I'm saying? Because these individuals are not valued. They're not valued, you know?
Oh, you're saying if they fight here in the U.S., they get paid X. If they fight in Dubai, they get 3X times.
It's different, yes, because of how the market is set up.
And what, the tickets are worth? I mean, the only way I can see justifying that is if a ticket here is, you know, $60, $70, and over there it's $200, $300. How do they pay the guys more? I mean,
it is different, but also you got to look at it when you talk about the O2 Arena. It's a magnificent venue. The fans go there. You know, from the words of Anthony Joshua, when he could put 90,000 in a stadium, nobody breathing, U.S. fighter. We don't have the support here like that. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I see.
Not even Mike Tyson, you know, not even your Jake Pauls. So the people in those regions, they rally around their guys. They support. They're gonna come out and fill stadiums. They're gonna buy merchandise. They're gonna support. That's why most of those guys, they don't like coming to the States and fighting. You know, when you look at Queensberry promotion, Frank Warren, and all these guys, you know, how they structure it, they have diehard fans. When we do events over there, it's a 5-hour difference, right? The fans is a different breed than over here. We have good fans. Those fans, and it's not drink and fight.
Okay.
Drink and fight.
All right. We won't talk about debt on the business because, as you mentioned, I think for the most part now
No, we have zero debt. We don't have no debt.
even if you had that, I mean, who would, on what collateral would you borrow? And it'd be very difficult, you know? I find that a lender would be very cautious to invest in this.
That's one of the things that I pride Mike Vasquez off of. He always would say he's the president, you know, of BKB, the one who I started the company with. He always said, Dada, we're gonna do this slow and carefully, you know, and we're gonna last. We're gonna be around. We don't want to rush it. And yeah, 10 years later, we're the big dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think the business is worth today?
The business,
I mean, if somebody came here and had to, you know, offered you to buy it, wanted to write you a check.
oh, wow. Listen, a lot of zeros. And
Why? Because you think the business justifies it, or because you're just like, I don't want to sell this. I enjoy what I do.
The business justifies it, plus the intellectual property, plus the trajectory, and plus everything that we have attached to it. You see? So it's like right now, you know, I don't think that we will sell right now, even if you offered, you know, $1 billion. I don't think.
Who are the shareholders today?
Wow, my partners, Mike Vasquez. Yeah, Mike Vasquez.
Is he also a part of the other association, the UFC, or no?
No. This is the entity in the combat sports world that he operates out of. So he was in sales, you know, and NASCAR before I met him. Right. And this was something that he seen the value in, the benefit in, you know, and he came on board, you know, and he helped, you know, package it, you know, put it in to a format that we could do what we're doing, you know, here now, you know. So started out, it was me and him. Now, of course, you know, as you move on, you know, things change a little bit, but that's the guy, you know, and with the trajectory that we're on and, you know, how the business, you know, is going and how promising it is and the people that, you know, we have under contract for the long term, you know, now we're going to hang on to it, you know, for a few years, easy, you know, because we have other entertainment entities, you know, underneath that umbrella. And it's fun, and it's different.
That's true.
We're in our own lane, you know, and we're moving. And the fans, when you get a chance after these events, when the fans is like, hey, when is the next one? That's a good feeling because they really enjoyed this, you know? And when you get a chance to take this show that started in a backyard where nobody believed, except for a handful of people, now, the same people that doubted, the same people that said it would never work, you know what I'm saying, it would never blow up, these are the same ones that are saying, yo, this is amazing. I got the mind of an elephant. You know what I'm saying? I never forget who said it, what was said, and where I was when you said it, and how I felt, you know?
Yeah.
And that was motivation, you know? To the point that right now, we're still working hard every day, you know, because creative minds never take a day off. But we have the content, the show, the evolution, you know. So when you look at, you know, everything that we have, you know, everything that we're doing, once we bundle that up, it's hard to put a price tag on it.
Apart from the business of sponsoring the events or doing the events, do you ever back any of the fighters?
We back them every day. We back them.
No, but I meant like make contracts with them where you say you fight for us.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it'll be crazy to go into this business, you know, without a contract, you know, and they have the opportunity to read it over, have whoever look it over, because it protects a contract. You know, it protects us both, and it keeps everybody honest in the equation. You know, this is what we're going to do for you, and you need to come prepared. You know what I'm saying? To put on the best performance, you know, that you can. So it's like, it's obligation, you know? And aside, you know, we're a family with all of our guys, aside of the contract, right? You know, we're promotion that cares. And we understand that, you know, times are hard, you know, life be lifing, especially now. It's even more difficult, you know? So most individuals, they don't have nobody they can lean on. We're talking, you know, just to be there to walk them through certain things, you know, to help them figure things out, you know, to keep them focused, you know? And we've been doing that since the backyard, you know? Now the work don't stop.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
I imagine, I mean, there's a million individuals that want to get in, right?
Yes.
Everybody wants to be a fighter, and you know, are you guys courting some of the best fighters, or are these guys kind of actively coming to you and saying, we want to compete, we want to, how does it work?
A little bit of both. More on the last part, now they're coming to us. Keep one thing in mind, right? UFC, right, is 8 limbs plus ground. You know, you elbowing, your knees, you're choking, you know, submissions, punches, kicks, etc. Now, let's say somebody shoot in and that person blows a knee, all right? His career pretty much is over, you know, and he could be 21 years old, you know, it's done. But he rehabs himself back, you know, to the point that, you know, he can compete now. But it wouldn't be wise to go back there because you can't afford to take another shoot in, right? So where your career will be over, we are a second formation of life for your career, right? Because we're straight hands. It's bare-knuckle boxing. You don't have to worry about nobody kicking your legs, taking you down.
So it's common that someone that gets hurt in maybe, let's say, the UFC or Bellator,
yeah, all of them
come back
are
and say,
all of them are coming from all walks of life. Retired football players, baseball players, you know, MMA guys, boxers, everybody, you know what I'm saying, is knocking. But the hard part was to get the ball to rolling. And once we got the machine, you know, up and running, well-oiled machine, now people see the benefit of being a part of it. Hey, I want to be over here with these guys. They treat the fighters well. You know, our checks don't bounce, you know, we're credible, you know, and it's like, we're here to help you be the best version, you know, of yourself. Like we are the best, not just because I say it, but because you could track our progress. The Police Gazette Diamond built, right? That's the oldest building competition. Everybody that has boxed on the major level, from Larry Holmes to Mike Tyson, all of them has earned that Police Gazette built. It's like a little scrungy type build. It's not like your traditional WCBC build or whatever, right? Over 143 years, multiple people have, you know, governed that body. Now, the only way you can get that title right now is if you're fighting. That prestigious belt is as if you're fighting with BKB. UFC has the UFC belt. Everybody has their name on it. This is the Police Gazette. This is the most sought after. And what people don't know is this. It costs to get these belts. So when you look at boxing, Canelo Alvarez, it costs about 60 grand to get this belt. People don't go to track the money to see who's paying for these belts. It's not like you just slapping that together.
Well, you're saying the belt, like
the belt, yeah, because it's the goal. It's about the sanctioning body. You know what I'm saying? Most belts are plated. Some belts have diamonds on them. Like our belts have real diamonds on them. The Police Gazette.
I didn't know that.
You know, and you say, hey, who's your sanctioning body? When you have, you know, you have the IBF, the IBO, the WBA, the WBO. All these are different bodies. That's when you're talking about the unification. When Mike Tyson had all of these belts, there's a price tag associated with all of those belts. You know, every time he won another one. You know, so it's like when I started getting in, I'm like, yo, we gotta pay this, we gotta do that. you know, and it's a lot that goes into this business, you know. But to answer your question, we have individuals now that contacts our Hall of Fame matchmaker Mel Venezuela, like Mel is like Dada on the phone, is running, and it's a good thing, and they're all stars, you know. That's why we're adding on more and more events, you know. We just added on an event last night, you know, in New York in September. You know, we already had an event going on in September. So these events are piling on because we have the largest roster. We got to keep these guys active.
Yeah.
We can't sign you and put you on the show, right? So the more fighters we get, the more events we're booking, the bigger our portfolio is, the bigger and faster we're expanding. Because all of these fighters, they all have their own identity, they all have their own fan base, their own followings, so forth like that. So in any state or city we go to, depending on the roster, who's on the card, that will reflect, you know what I'm saying, the venue that we will get. You know, and again, we have the small room events, we have the big room events, you know.
Are they responsible for marketing the event to some extent, you know?
Well, now we've implemented inside the contract, yeah, if you're going to be fighting on this card, yeah, we need you to post at least twice a day, you know, at least twice a day. You know, to your stories, to your page, letting your fans know where they could go support you at and get tickets. We give you a promo code, you know, to use, so we'll see how many people you're bringing in, you know, so forth like that.
Yeah, I imagine that's a good idea for the next contract, you know, to make your case and say, hey, listen, last time I brought 1,500 individuals, you know, or 50, you know.
And then negotiate your purse.
Yeah.
Negotiate your purse. See, most folks, they'll come on board and they wouldn't, because these fighters, they don't understand the business, right? That, hey, yeah, I'm a bad A. Yeah, and I got family, friends, supporters. I could bring out a couple hundred to an event. I gotta let the promotion know my worth, right? So yeah, track this, you know? So if I just signed a 3-fight deal, right? Okay, 3-fight deal may be 20,000, you know, 25, 30, right? Okay, you take that. But you win all of your matches, right? Now when you come back for negotiations, that's a different ballgame, man. That's a different ballgame. You know, so it's like, again, most of these individuals, they're not negotiators. That's why they got to rely on individuals. If they're not smart, they got to have smart people in the corner to tell them exactly what they need to do. You know, Mike Tyson really didn't understand the business. That's why Don King was Don King, you know, but he could fight, you know. And I go to different cities and states, I see talent. And the best part about me is I don't need an introduction. They know who I am. They know who Dada 5000 is. So they know what I do. So when I show up, you know, it's to see what I see and to create opportunities, you know, for you. So that's why we have the 0 to 60, which is, you know, it's like, it's not a revolving door, right? You come in. When you come in, you have 60 seconds. You have 60 seconds to show us, you know what I'm saying, what you have. It's balls to the walls, because you're in that small surface. Right? You have 4 judges. 1 judge is watching, you know, your footwork.
This is what you're talking about when you're previewing the fighter.
Yes, your hand-eye coordination, your punching power, you know, your footwork, your technique, your overall fight performance. And off of 60 seconds, we can determine if you got what it takes or not. Let's say both of you guys are still standing and we definitely want to see more. Guess what? We just booked that fight, you know, in length for Trigon Combat, right? So it's like, it's a feeder system, you know, right. And we get a chance. So the next time the world see these guys is not the first time they seen them, because we got their back end story. We got their height, their weight, their reach, you know what I'm saying, their width, you know what I'm saying, their style of fighting, you know, where they're from, you know, like we got all the information on them. And not only do we have that, but we're showing you 60 seconds of what they could do. Yeah. So now you have something to lead into the amateurs with, to market and promote, and it's already online. So you have a single father of 4, right? And he said he always had dreams and aspirations of being a fighter. But, you know, he had kids early. So he had to put them first and put him on the back burner. He worked 2 jobs. His kids are older now. And while he still feels like he has what it takes, he wants to take a shot. I got on a plane and now I'm here. You know, I'd rather try than to live life not knowing what could have been, right? So now you have other single fathers out there. They could be of different cultures, you know, different ethnicities, but I can relate to his story because I'm him. I'm just over here, right? So I'm rooting for this guy before he even throw a punch, you know?
But you do this on your gut, or you have like a science behind this?
I mean, I do it on...
Because that's a story. That's a nice story. When people go on The Voice, they tell you a story right before they sing, and the story is kind of to sell you on the individual.
Yeah.
The fighters, I'm sure they have a story, you know, and the more tragic the story is, the more you're rooting for the guy because you want to see the underdog.
Listen, Bruno, the stories... Listen, back in the days when the person was like, I was homeless, I had to sleep in my car. Bro, at least you had a car to sleep in. Listen to this guy's story.
Yeah.
You know? So that's what, you know, is so remarkable because, you know, these guys, you know, we're rooting for them in a sense because when they're telling their story, you know, most of us have never been homeless. Most of us have never been through what they've been through. And the only thing we can do is imagine, you know, that's a reflection to say, hey, how strong am I? This dude was homeless, or this dude, you know, had to go through XYZ, you know, for years, you know, and he's still here. You know what I'm saying? The mental is so strong because that would have broke him if he wasn't focused, you know? Yeah. So we understand what fuels him, you know, and how bad he wants this, you know, and what he's willing to go through just to get a small taste of glory. And these dudes, not only do they know how to punch, they know where to punch, you know? And most of these 60-second events, you know, there's only one person that's going to be standing, and it's the person that got the most pain stepping inside that ring. And I got to make this work. And you're looking in their eyes. This is it.
Well, you're in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
You know, like, and entertainment is part of the individual. You know?
Put it like this. When you look at any genre, you know, it's only a handful of wrestlers that ever transcended over, you know what I'm saying, to the big screen. Well, Andre the Giant done a movie, right? The Rock done a movies. Triple H done movies. Randy Macho Man Savage done Slim Jim commercials. Hulk Hogan, you know what I'm saying? John Cena, you know, that's about it. You may have a couple others. We're talking about in the history of WWF, WWE. Not everybody got the personality. Yeah. That's why when you look at a lot of my videos, hey, what's up, good people, this is the big homie, Dada 5, you gotta bring that energy. And especially, see, like right now, I need a haircut, you know what I'm saying? But when it's on, you turn on, you know, you're winning the people over because you're articulate, right? You're charismatic, you know, you have character, you know what I'm saying? You have that personality that could be addictive, you know what I'm saying? And your presence can't be ignored because you're not coming in the room under a normal, you know what I'm saying, standpoint, from a normal standpoint. When you look at normal, basic, standard, typical, generic, you know what I'm saying, average, basic, subpar, you know what I'm saying? None of those are exciting, right? When you look at original, extraordinary, right? That derives from ordinary. Ordinary goes with the rest of those that I just said. It's nothing eye-dropping or mouth-dropping about none of those. But when you say extraordinary, only extraordinary people get remembered, right? Kobe Bryant was extraordinary. That's why they talked about him to the length that they did, right, in his career, and RIP when he passed. But it was other individuals that was on that helicopter as well.
Well, I mean, I put him on he was extremely well-talented.
Yes.
Guys that I put on the Kanye West, for example, he's got a personality. You know, like he's out there. He's he's putting on a show regardless, you know.
Yes.
And even to this day, I mean, he's barely making albums, but he's still out there. He likes the limelight, you know. So you have to like the cameras, I think.
Like the cameras, be boisterous, but also be intentional. Like, for me, you know, I'm intentional with literally everything I do. And I understand, just think gymnastics, right? You see that beam, it's about this wide, and it's about from here, maybe to the door, right? These athletes, they be on that beam doing somersaults and all of that, right? That could be perfect. But when they jump off and do that 360 collar corner, you know, definitive somersault flip, if they don't stick the landing, everything else was all for nothing. You know?
Yeah.
You could do a 5-star performance on the beam, but if you fumble or you don't stick the landing, you get docked heavily. So I understand, you know, man, listen.
In this case, winning the fight is landing it.
Yeah, because you don't want to be all bravado and you get out there and you lose. Yeah, you know, so definitely you want to be, you know, a craftsman. You know, you want to take your career serious because everybody loves a winner. You know, we remember Usain Bolt, right? It was 10 other athletes in that 100. We don't, not only do we not remember none of them other 9, we don't even remember who came in second place.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
And then your victory dance has to be something unique.
Yes,
yes. Who was it that, oh man, what's this guy's name? John Jones. That every time he won, he did like some move, something.
Listen, him just like prime time doing the little skip inside, you know. So it's like signature.
Patty, what's the other guy? Patty Pimblett, I think.
Yes. You know.
Anyways, let's see here. Tell me about your competitors. You're in the entertainment business, so obviously any kind of entertainment competes with you. But particularly if we're talking about MMA, I mean, I know UFC, Bellator, but is there anybody else out there that is not as well known that has those qualities, such as, you know, bare knuckles or raw, unfiltered, you know? Great question. So you have other competitors out there. You got another, you know, group, KFC. I think it's KFC. No, I'm thinking KFC is like chicken.
yeah, that's them. You know,
but what they do?
KFC. No, it's another organization. You know, I just silenced the B. You know, so it's just KFC. But nobody can touch us because again, what we have that nobody else have. Initially, they don't have a Dada. They don't have a Trigon. Everything else, you know what I'm saying, was geniusly put together.
You patented the Trigon.
100%.
Nobody else can use it.
Nobody else can use it. Others have tried. Triller have tried. We sued them. You know, others have tried. The same ring, Bruno, that they said, you know, was crazy. You know, it was this. It would never work. Now some of the biggest promotions on the planet is trying to take it.
Yeah, that's an incredible business strategy to patent something like that, because now, if you want to see what that size does, you know, that confrontational.
It's the most dominant fighting form in combat sports in any genre. We have a 90% knockout rate. 90% of the fights will end in knockout, KO or TKO, you know? And I'm so confident, I'm so passionate because again, you know, nobody done what I did in the backyard. You know what I'm saying? I had to wear many, many hats, right? So when you look at the UFC, when you look at all these promotions, they didn't start in the yard like that, right? They started with more than I had to work with, right? So even though they were barbaric in the sense, you know, with the weight classes and stuff like that in the earlier days, they still had the structure. Right? So my mentality is different because if you gave me what they had at that time, I'd blow anybody out of the water.
Yeah.
I could stand on it with what I know and how passionate I am, you know, and what I've learned over the years is no promoter out there that will out-promote me. And you got all of the resources. You give me a fraction of that and it's over.
So you operate on grit, man. Like
It's,
it's really just like you just want to outcompete everyone.
you got to have that competitive spirit. You got to be you have to the point that as big as I am, I'm still out there days before we even get to the city, of the event.
Yeah.
In the hoods, going to the barber shops. I'm the last person you thought was gonna walk in your shop this morning, right? And it helps because you know me, you know what I'm saying? Or you've heard of me. So, that's a high for me, because I like to deal with the people, you know what I'm saying? Direct connect, hand to hand, no middleman. That's why, it's like I go to these places, I let the people know we're in your city. We have this event going on. A lot of people, they don't listen to radio. A lot of people don't watch TV, right? So when you look at the machine, billboards, radio, TV, internet, street teams, stuff like that, that's the machine. So when you say, hey, listen, I can be a couple of those things in one. I was marketing and promoting the backyard when it was illegal, but I messed everybody's head up because how I came at you, giving police officers, brochures and flyers. Yeah, you guys come by. It's gonna be this Saturday. It's like, yo, this can't. It's something more to this, and that's how I approached it, and that's the fire that burns inside right now today, like. At any event, I'm around. I'm mingling. I'm shaking hands. I'm interacting. You know what I'm saying?
You're building the business now. What's your exit plan?
Exit plan?
Or you're not even thinking about that?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. The exit plan is to build this thing to a successful, or uberly successful, promotion. In the next year and a half, 2 years, we're going to be rivaling UFC. 100%. Remember I said that. And they have a cookie cutter system. We don't have no base model, right? So I don't have a regimen that I go off of. I go off of information and being inspired, by what it is that I'm passionate about. So on every new level, I educate myself, right? So I bring out a different form of myself and a different competitive form of myself, So I've grown from the backyard. That was that type of mentality. On every level, a different mentality shows up. So you look back and you're like, yo, I've come a long way. So I've evolved, and we're constantly evolving. Like right now, I'm sitting here and I'm supercharged, man, because, you can ask a question and I'll get my posture together, and I get amped up and it's like, yo, listen, we're the biggest, the baddest, the best. And that comes from not just, doing these events, but the ingredients that we put inside here and the work ethic, you know what I'm saying? Like around the clock, nonstop, fighters calling you, you have your role inside the organization, you have to be over here marketing and promoting. And now again, we are, a sports promotion, but we've elevated to an entertainment company, So underneath that umbrella, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy.
And I'll give you my last question here. What concerns you about the industry?
What concerns me about the industry?
What has you worried at night about, what could happen? Is it legislation? Is it another rival?
I welcome any rivals. And if they're out there, they need to show up and stop waiting in the shadows because we're getting big. We're gonna be too big, And I had no rivals in the backyard. Disruptive business mind frame. I would destroy them. So even though the other group that I just had said, they're dwindling out because they don't have that it factor. They don't have what it takes to sustain themselves, And I'm a one-man army in the mind frame of I know what I was capable of on this level because I proved it in the backyard, right? So my confidence is on 10. This, in this game, is more than just me, right? I was the beginning and the end in the backyard. Whatever I wanted to do, I did it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have to go to nobody, to get nobody to check off. But we're not in the backyard, right?
Yeah.
So it's like on this level, I got partners, right? And everybody do a job. We hired people that are experts in these fields, right? So even if I think this, that, or third, I'll go through those channels because if I knew it all, then they wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what has me up at night, is, man, what are we gonna do, after we reach our goals, by putting out, the biggest and the best shows, taking this company to heights. I don't know, like, what am I gonna do after it's over?
No.
That's it. Because we have industry insiders, right, that are in every position. They just don't know their job. They've operated on the highest levels imaginable at this job. They're winners. They know how to win, and they're good at it. And that's why when you look and you see the people that are involved, oh my gosh. Like we just brought on the president of Lights Out Promotions, Mr. David, I don't want to butcher his name, Trudel. He was over Sony Pictures, Clear Channel, Golden Boy, Triller, and a whole bunch of other, top 10, very successful companies. So we just brought him on board. So we have our parent company, Lights Out. So he's the president of Lights Out, which is the house, that house BKB and all these other, entities, So when the people look at who's on board, they be like, yo, they're a long way from the backyard.
Yeah.
A long way from the backyard. I just want to tell all your viewers, man, that this road was not easy, right? The road to where we at was not easy, but it was well worth it. I couldn't see myself doing anything else, other than what I'm doing now. And I stopped working for DCF. I graduated from the Corrections Academy, and from school at the same time, like a month apart. That was in 2005. I never went back to the academy. I never went back to corrections, or none of that. And I have not worked for anybody from 2005. This is around the time of Kimbo, right? He burst on the scene and all of us are from the same place. Well, both from Prime, right? So we went to school together. We always knew each other. But I was a strong dude lifting a lot of weight, so I came on Entourage and security, right? So he's doing the backyard. He just went pro, fighting Ray Mercer, And inside these regards, it's like what was done, will never be duplicated. And I always, give him his flowers because I tell people, yeah, he inspired me to take it to another level, and if it wasn't for him, who knows?
Maybe none of this would have happened.
None of this would never happen,
Well, look, you seem really optimistic about the future.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to what you have to, get done in the next year or two.
Yes.
I'm rooting for you.
Appreciate you.
And I appreciate you for coming on board. If there's any opportunity, business opportunity, investments that we could do, yes. We're always looking for opportunities for entrepreneurs such as yourself that are excited, they're optimistic,
yes,
and they got a good product, and the future looks
Listen,
good.
And in closing, I'll say this, right? If you cut me right now, I bleed ambition, and the positivity that lives within me is contagious. I mean, because I get excited about what I'm confident. I get excited about, how confident I am about me saying what it is that I can do. Because if I'm that confident, I've done it before. I've done it multiple times, you know? So now we get into product placement endorsements, you know, got my deodorant line that's coming out very soon, 5,000 degrees, stay dry under the hottest of temperature, you know what I'm saying? My NRG, you know, my energy shot, my energy drink, you know what I'm saying? NRG, you say it fast, it's energy, but it's NRG. Neutralize, revitalize, and go the distance when you got 5,000 NRG in your body's fuel system. Again, creative minds never stop. You know, this is the vehicle that's just gonna create multiple opportunities, not just for myself, but for other like-minded individuals that understand the benefit and knowing how to capitalize. You know, opportunity presents itself, but opportunity is also created, right? We created opportunities in the backyard, right? And these individuals that these opportunities was created for, some of them knew how to capitalize, others, you know what I'm saying, they figured it out down the line. But, you know, you put me anywhere, you know, we're gonna make it happen. Yeah, we're gonna make it happen.
All right, one there. Oh man, that was good.
Thank
Not
you.
at all. Let's get a picture.
Of course.
Made in America.